Hello, we are on Loomuse Academy, and I'm Faristamo Elleriga from Loomuse. With me here is today Vesna Liponik, who is from Slovenia and who came here to Loomuse conference, what is happening on 16th and 17th of June. So today is 17th of June. You are probably listening this podcast much later. So just that Vesna is here right now in Estonia, but probably later away in Slovenia or somewhere else. Hello, Vesna, and thank you for coming.
Hello, thank you for the invitation. Yeah, it's really nice. It's a great conference, and you are a perfect company.
Thank you. I very much like that you both came with Tomasz and that we have all these interesting talks. First of all, about you, Vesna, how did you end up working in field of animals?
Yeah, I think I was interested in the topic like as far as I can remember, actually. I was growing up on a farm. My parents had a farm. It was mostly a fruit farm with apples. My mother still works on that field, and I also help her whenever I can. And we always had dogs. So I was a big dog lover at the beginning, and cats, of course. And it was just the thing that, I don't know, I was drawn into, basically. And later I started to read about it, and then I became a vegetarian, vegan. I'm also writing poetry, so it also became a focus in my poetic work. I write a lot about also human-animal relations. Yeah, so it's just, so the topic was just developing, and then I started doing activism in high school with a group of friends, and I joined this society I'm part of. It's called For the Animals, Society for the Assertion of Animal Rights. And yeah, I mean, whatever I was doing, and it was the same with the topic of animals, it was always like, it was not just like on one field, but it was always like completely, I mean, everything what I was doing was overwhelmed with it. So whether it was poetry, whether it was scientific work, I'm vegan, of course, activism. So yeah, that's
Many questions. First, about your scientific work, can you describe it a little bit?
Yeah, I finished my master's in literary theory and Slovene language, and I was working on the topic of anthropomorphization. I sort of made like a critical analysis of trope, so it was like figurative language and tropology, what I was focusing on. And later I got the position of junior research fellow, and I'm a PhD candidate at the Slovenian Academy of Sciences and Arts, a PhD candidate at the postgraduate school of Slovenian Academy of Sciences and Arts. I'm working and I'm continuing my work. So basically what I was doing in my master's, I will just develop a bit more. Currently, I'm working at the Institute of Philosophy, and my mentor is Marina Gržinic. So yeah, now I'm in the first year, so I have to write my proposal. Now I'm currently working on that, but it would be on the topic of human-animal relations and aesthetics and politics, basically.
Can you describe it a little bit more? It sounds very intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently still developing it, so it's more like in the, yeah, but what I want to do is actually also, because my mentor is doing a lot on the topic of necropolitics, biopolitics, and decolonial studies. So I want to make this connection with critical animal studies and decolonial studies, and basically what I'll plan to focus on is how actually how can we imagine like agency of animals, and how this agency is presented, for example, in the aesthetics, in art, in I'll focus a lot on literature, which is very close to me, since I'm also a poet. Yeah, that's basically like this broad.
And about this poems, what you write, is it only in Slovenian?
No, it's also in. A lot of them were translated into English, also into German, some of them, into Hungarian and Serbian. Yeah.
Yes. Interesting. I want to have them, this English and German ones, then I can read. Because what I find very difficult, or kind of difficult, is that I like literature myself, but it's for example, when I started to read books to my kids, the language or the way things are described there, it's not correct, and it helps. Of course, I understand that literature is something to create the world, or to help to create the world, and if it is children's book, then it is for children to learn about the world. So if this book says that a cow gives milk, then it's not the truth. I can't read that to my kid because I'm lying. The same with chickens, with pigs, basically with every animal. And it's like they voluntarily do that. And then of course it's not the place to be surprised why kids have this kind of wrong idea about the world, maybe, right? Or grown-ups, because they were taught that like that. They read these children books. How do you cope with that?
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, this was also my problem. And when I was like, also when you're reading poetry, you have like a certain understanding of metaphorics and of this whole figurative language and the way we express things. And of course, it's violent towards animals. And there was one Slovenian poet, Jure Detela, who was writing a lot about it, and I really liked his work. And well, he died in the 90s, and posthumously, some of his not only poems but also some of his writings were published, and he problematized heavily this kind of use of language when we treat like, but not only animals, also like other nature, like the rivers, trees, how we like sort of include them into art, into literature, and we like cut them into pieces, how this is also like very, very violent, and how basically this is even preliminary to what we then do to like also animals, also trees, how we cut them, how we destroy their lives, how we actually don't understand them as autonomous beings. And this is what I missed also in literature. And I wanted to like, I wanted to write about what I could not read about. I wanted to create this kind of alternative dimension that I was missing. And of course, with children's books, I mean, this is like a horrible indoctrination also into gender. If you're watching cartoons and commercials between cartoons, this is like a whole psychological horror of binary gender and violence towards animals. So I think it's very important, like, to change discourse. It's not only this activism. Okay, of course you're vegan, and I understand veganism also in this very broad sense, that it must include also like aesthetics, not only cosmetics, clothing and food, but also on whole different level, and that it must also like yeah, that it affects also the way we are as consumers of art, and also working rights, not only animal rights, but also human rights, and all that dimensions. And that it, of course, it must be in the first place anti-capitalism. And this is what was the most crucial for me.
Yeah, lately I heard an interesting idea. I don't remember who wrote about that. I think it was some photographer probably. And the idea was that we very often, and very many people, me included, we like to make photos of nature and also make photos of animals. But how to understand if you make the photo only because of that animal, not because of the story, what you have or what you want to tell about yourself, and not about only that animal. And yes, it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, photography is especially I mean, I really like photography also. For some time I was quite interesting. I would say that this was my hobby. And yeah, it's very interesting. Also, if you watch the like photographs of there's this great essay from John Berger. I think it's quite a classic. Why Look at Animals? So he's writing about, you know, animals in the zoo, and the way we, of course, can't see them actually, how they have disappeared, how basically in zoos we have like the monuments. And he also, of course, he was writing a lot about art. He was art historian, art critic, and much else. And yeah, how actually, you know, photographs of animals in zoos, how basically there is not this, it's not a photo of a relationship with this specific being, but it's basically like a representative of a species, or not even that, a representative of like some completely aesthetic. It's also like, it's almost like pornography actually, when most of those aestheticization, of course, when we're like photographing in a sense that it basically reintroduces like this very, very traditional, very conservative ways of understanding art and aesthetics. Yeah, I think that's also one of the important. But there are some projects that are really nice. I mean, I think the most famous is probably the one, how is it called, this Australian photographer. It was also a documentary, Ghosts in Our Machine. I think she's very interesting. And also one other photographer who's working under a nickname, and it has a nickname that that is basically like a number of a cow that was killed in a slaughterhouse, you know, when they have their numbers. And that's and she take this nickname, and she's basically I don't know, it's she or he or they, but maybe it's better to say they problematize this violence that is happening in slaughterhouse, but in a way that they use abstraction. So you have to like look into the photo, and then suddenly you realize, oh my God, I'm looking at, I don't know, this dead animal, or, you know, a machine that kills the animals. And it's really a good way to how to approach the theme. And it's not only that they picture like this violence and what's going on in slaughterhouses, but also on the other hand, part of the same project, Atmen ohne Pause is the title, and it's a photo book. And at the same time, there's this intimate relationship this person has with animals that are not part of the animal industrial complex. So that was like one of my favorite projects that I see as an alternative to this kind of aesthetic that is reinforced in general in most of the spaces we encounter. Yeah, so.
And how do you see that these different kind of art forms can change the perception of people? Can they? And what is or what should be, or what could be the outcome?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, for me, art it's always embedded in some ideology. And I think to say that some art is engaged and other not, that's complete nonsense. It's just that some have, like, as you were describing before, the storytelling where you know, chicken give eggs and that's also an ideology, but it's the norm, and so norm can never be seen as ideology, but it is basically, and we're like so heavily forced into it since we were born. And for me, it is very important to change discourses on so many levels, like with what you do, with on everyday level, with what you eat, with your work, like in the scientific work. For me, it was also important to change this in the context of literature, to write about what's going on with animals, and on the other hand, to write about different relationship with them, how they are possible, how to use language to change this whole this whole violence on this level, on the metaphorical level. And also, of course, activism, just plain activism as a practice, advocacy, basically. I mean, I think it's very important to to work on all the fields, actually, if you want to, like, really change things, or yeah, I mean, I can't imagine just living a life and not doing anything. I think.
But how do you see that? Because we are talking a lot about arts lately, activists, like, I think it was from the spring already, when activists took different art forms and made something what seemed like a violence. It wasn't really an act of violence, but it was as it could be, like tomato to the glass of the picture, so nothing really happened to the picture, or changing the color of this fountain, so nothing really happened to the artwork, but the reactions are so strong, and they are not all one direction, they are in different direction. How do you see this kind of activism, and what do you think could be the reaction to it? Like, what would be the right reaction, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think art has a, like, discovered and undiscovered potentials, like to disrupt the common sense and what's going on. And I really like that, you know, it's not only art and activism, it's also artivism. So you can have this mixture of art and activism and use it. Yeah, but that was really an interesting case with the tomato soup. You mean about the Van Gogh?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing that it was, yeah. And but sometimes what happens is that, you know, it disrupts, but it can also be understood wrongly. It's always this this fear of you know, redirecting attention into wrong ways. And I think here it partly also happened as I was following the media. But on the other hand, I mean, yeah, what's going on basically in the context of environment, it's that I mean, yeah, how to express basically this and I mean, people were so, like, shocked about this act, but what's going on, it's far more horrible and far-reaching than, like, pouring some soup over Van Gogh. I mean, it was not actually even that. I mean, as you said, it was glass in between, and
Exactly.
yeah, and you see how people are, like, how they're living. It's just grotesque. I mean, it actually, like, reveals this whole complex of a mindset of this disastrous mindset of the whole community. Basically, they just don't see what's going on, actually. So yeah, this is why these actions are very important, because they disrupt this and they
normality, right?
Yeah, and you can see those, you know, like from different angles, what's going on. So yeah, I really like those actions, because something happens, something unexpected. I mean, otherwise, okay, there's this classic protest, which is of course great and necessary, but with that we have some additional meanings and yeah, context that are.
What would you like to share in the end, or maybe to have some suggestion for the summer? Or
I mean, I can also read a poem, maybe.
That would be excellent. Thank you for that idea.
I think I won't find it in English, so I'll just read it in Slovene.
Oh.
So you'll also hear a bit of a language, which is, I think, in the context of poetry, very important. I really like those translations of poetry that keep the original and also the translation. And since poetry is not that long, it's possible to publish that all together. So I'll write a poem. These are a few new poems. I already published one book in 2019. It's Away the Hand is the translation. And this year, by the same publishing house, Škuc is the name of the publishing house. Second book will come out this year. So this will probably be in the second book. And the poems are about, this poem that I will read is about, there was on TikTok was one video that a guy took. It was about a pig who is trying to escape the trailer. And the guy took this video, and you can see the pig escaping, and the guy on the video who's screaming to the pig, "Come on, it's not far, come on," and then the pig escapes. Yeah, so that's the poem about. Ni daleč. Prašič z nosom potiska letvico na zadnji strani prikolice. Prašič se poskuša zriniti med rahljano letvico in prtljažnimi vrati vozila. Vozilo prevaža še več drugih prašičev. Prašiču se uspe vreči na cesto. Telo preleti cesto. Prašič je pobegnil. 2 videoposnetka objavljena na TikToku v nekaj dneh več kot 484,000 ogledov. Tisti, ki snema, kriči prašiču: "Daj no, ni daleč, daj no." Okay, that's
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. Maybe we can find this video, so then it's interesting to see it on the same time. Anyways, thank you, Vesna, for joining. Thank you, everyone who listened. Again, check out the conference and see you next time.
Thank you.